Hi, hello, South Sudan. This is Gender Talk 211. It's me, Jackie. Today you're missing Ever. And I have my elder sister's very lovely one. I'm feeling safe. I'm feeling home. Nyajuok is here with a friend, with a sister. And I know students from Catholic University of South Sudan and any of these schools that she has been going, they're so anxious because I saw a lot of, text on my box when I shared your picture and that you're hosting here. So I am so happy and delighted for this moment. And before we move on and dive on, we are discussing about I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream. This book is circulating all over on the social media. And Nyajuok is really a dream come true woman. When I'm with her, I feel so excited. So I'm going to give this opportunity so that they can introduce themselves and we go into our conversation of today. You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Jackie, for having us. Welcome, everybody out there on social media. Thank you for being here with us. My name is Nyajuok Tongyik Doluony, and I am here to come share my journey and my time writing my book, I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream. And the Catholic University student, hey! Yeah.
And my name is Kamille Y Thomas, and I am the editor of I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream, and Nyajuok's business partner, friend, sister, whatever you want to call us. And I'm here from the United States. I'm so honored to be here and to be able to be a part of this discussion on this book. And also to Catholic University students, love you guys. So good to be back.
The African in me, when talking to elders, you feel you get it.
I got it.
Yeah. So a lot's going to happen. We are going to talk about the book. And then maybe after the book, you will have to share with us some of your current activities that you're doing. But I want us first to begin with the book because this is the book that I also read. A lot of friends read this book. KK, if you're out there, you know about this book and other students. So I want us to know like why, because this is every questions that many who are reading this book, who comes across, who are following your page on social media want to know. They're so anxious to know why my mother's wildest dream.
The title.
Yeah, the title.
It's always the title. So just to give you guys a little bit of background about who I am. Like I said earlier, my name is Nyajuok Tongyik Doluony. I am a South Sudanese by birth. I was raised in Ethiopia refugees camp. And then when I was a teenager, my family moved to the United States. So more than half of my life, over 20 years, I was grown, like you would say, grown in the States. I have 3 children, Marna, Morch, and Novasi. 21, my oldest is 21, and then I have a 7 and a 5-year-old. I'm also, by career, I'm a registered nurse with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing and a Master in Public Health. And I spent all my career in the Army. So I'm a retired Army nurse, as you guys know, for those of you that read the book. So the book title is I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream. This is a question we get a lot, Jackie. And for those of you that were in the Catholic University or have attended our events, we have answered this question many times because it's an interesting title and it's encapsulate everything that I talked about. For one, I am living in a time right now where my mother never had a chance. Women her age never had a chance to be educated. My mother did not even have a chance to go to school, not even knowing her ABC or 1, 2, 3, didn't have that. And the liberty of being a woman, being able to talk about things like sex or wearing certain type of clothes. So the freedom to choose right now for some of us that have that freedom. So in a sense, I am living things that she could only dream of when she was my age or even younger. So that's one. And two, I reflect a lot on our upbringing. You know, when we were in refugees camp, I wrote a lot about the struggles that she went through bringing us up. And it's every parent, not just mother, it's every parent dream to wish for better for their children, better life, better circumstances, and better environment. So in a sense, her dream comes true through me, through us. So this is why the title it is as it is. And there are stories that if you read the book, you will know they related to why we titled the book, I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream.
Okay, I think that could also mean that every person's could be their mother's wildest dream.
Yes. Yes, every one of us, our parents dream for us to be better, to be healthier, to be more successful. So, and in a way, a lot of us are successful because of the prayers that our parents prayed for us and the wishes and all of that stuff. So we are definitely all our parents' wildest dreams.
I think we are following people who were so anxious about knowing why my mother's wildest dream as the title of the book are getting this and getting it so clearly. And as we move on, we also would like you to tell us about your story and how you ended up writing about my mother's wildest dream. Maybe if there's some contributing factors, it can be people that maybe you so much work with. Kamel is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can tell us about that story.
Yeah. It's really interesting because my story for a very long time I minimize it, and many of us do minimize our stories, our struggles, or just we think that it's not important. And for a long, long time, I feel like it's every South Sudanese woman's story. I went through the same thing. My arranged marriage. I had an arranged marriage when I was 14, and to me, it wasn't new. It wasn't something out of ordinary. It's a culture that I have known for a very long time and know that it exists. So I didn't think it would turn out to be this, right? So in 2020, like I said, I lived with all of my story, like many of us did. But in 2020, I was getting out of military because of trauma, PTSD, mental health issues. I was going through a lot, almost committed suicide. I was going through a divorce, and for while I was home preparing to get out of the army, there was young women in our community in South Sudan, especially in diaspora. They also decided that enough is enough, and they were gonna share their stories. They took it on Twitter, and your age, and you probably remember the thread in 2020. It was June 19th, 2020. I will never forget. I woke up one morning, and I was added to a group called South Sudanese Women Love, and it was a one woman story. She was hosted on a radio show like this, and she talks about her being raped by a young man in Omaha, Nebraska, and she was hosted by four men, right? Four young men. They brought this lady in and says, "It's okay. Talk about what happened to you. We want to put light in this rape culture that we have in Omaha, Nebraska, and almost everywhere, right?" So they consulted this young girl and told her that it's not acceptable, condoning the rape, and listeners were listening, and they have similar stories. And in fact, they knew some of the people that were interviewing her and giving her comfort were also, they had raped some of them. So they took this story on social media and calling out people that have raped them. And these young women made lists like so and so also raped me in this place. And the conversation took over Twitter, and they brought it to Facebook. They were like, if something's going to change in our community, we need our parents to intervene and know. So when they brought it to Facebook, I was added to the group, and I saw their stories. 3 days I read their stories. I cried with them. My heart completely broke. So I felt the need to also share my story with them. So I told them that I have a story. It was a 4-minute clip. I made a video. I was in my car. I was crying, and I said, I also have my story. I heard you guys. I empathize with you. I can relate, and this is my story. It's not a rape story, but I was forced into a arranged marriage, and I remember some of the culture and traditions that we do, that we practice, that are very harmful for young women like you. And I was in the same situation. And that 4-minute video, it took over that page. A lot of people start calling me and share their own story with me, from Kenya, from Australia. I got called from Nairobi. You read the chapter in the book.
Yeah.
But to cut the long story short, I found myself so involved in that group that I almost felt like the owner.
Mm-hmm.
I was providing therapy. I was speaking to people. I was singing songs, just to give them a way to reach out. They could reach out to me and share their stories, or just survival. Comforting them. Within a month or two after doing all this therapy, I told them that I was going to put my story in a book. And if anybody wanted to share their story with me, we would compile it. But, not too many people want to do that because this is new to us, to put your story out there.
Yeah.
They feel safe to share it in that little group, but they didn't feel safe to share it with the world.
Yeah.
So I said, I will share my story. So I told myself I was going to write this book, and it would take me 6 months to write it. and I would find an editor to edit the book in 6 months, and within 12 months, we would publish the book. So I reach out to here, my good friend that I have known since 2016 through our military services. I reach out to her. She's a writer, and I said, I need this book to be edited and be published within this time. And she did such an amazing job that we didn't even reach the 12 months. We were able to publish the book in 11 months. And you know the results.
Wow, congratulations. I know it.
Yeah. So that's how the book was written. It's totally found me. I didn't intend to go out. It was a situation that forces me to share my story. And of course, I didn't also intend it to turn out this way. But when you're honest about something and when you write it out of your heart for the people, it finds its way. It finds the truth. And definitely this book found the right place to be.
Yeah, I understand this suit our situations a lot in South Sudan. Others outside there may be currently going through the same thing. Others might have been going through the same thing. And sometimes we fail to find people to talk to, maybe a friend to talk to. And I would just like to know from Kamille, how was this experience of your sister, I can call, doing all this together with her, and also being you're an adopted daughter of South Sudan now. Maybe you will use the other name of yours that you were given. Yeah, the name Nyajuok. You're a gift to us. So I would also like to know, how was that experience working with your sister, regardless of the different environment, because the experience in the US is not like the experience in Africa, in South Sudan in particular. But I see there's a lot of bond between you people, and I admire that a lot.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for that question. This journey, it's been a journey since 2020. She immediately invited me to the group to see what was going on with all the ladies there. Her heart was pouring out. And because I've always thought that she was such a beautiful person, she was just so driven. I've always admired her. I felt honored that she would call me, to be a part of that journey. As she was going through her own trials and tribulations, and she was also, what she had left, trying to help other people. I just thought that was just a beautiful display of love for her people, especially the young women of South Sudan. And so, through those sessions, through the training sessions, I really got to understand the issues that the women here are facing, and the young women in particular are facing. My heart just went out, just hearing the horror stories. But also it was a different kind of admiration, because not only did she get on there, but she also, invited her therapists and other counselors and resources. She made those available to all of those young women who needed something. And she started helping people all across the globe. And I was more of a friend and consultant at the time, like, oh, should I do this? Should I not? And then when she asked me to write her book, she called me one day, and I tell this story and I laugh. And she's like, hey, can I, it was a ghostwriter, ghostwriter. And I'm like, oh, I don't know one, but I'll find one. And she's like, actually, can you edit my book? And I'm like, huh? And I'm like, what would make you think that I could do something?
Yeah,
like
it was
this?
a little shocking.
It was shocking, And she was like, well, God told me you could. So pray about it, call me back. So I did. I prayed about it. I heard an immediate yes, in my spirit. But I called her the next day, even though I had the answer right away. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And so listening to her story, being able to research the culture of South Sudan, research the terrain, the topography of South Sudan, trying to put the pieces together, reaching back to her, because writing a book, and especially a personal story, it can be very difficult.
Yeah, sure.
Because that there's a chance that you'll be judged, that people will think that you're lying, and that your family or other people will be affected. And watching her go through that process, it was because we're connected. At times when she was hurting, I was hurting. At times when she was afraid, I had to, put on my consultant in big girl panties, as we call them in the US, and say, this is important. And it's not just about you, but, there's healing in telling your story. And, do it afraid. And I'm so glad that she continued on, because I know that there were a lot of tears, a lot of fears, a lot of, I'm not so sure about this. And, it's a process to write the book. And so I'm so glad that she decided that it was important enough for her to share her story with the world, regardless of what anybody would thought, because who would have thought that this would be the outcome of her simply trying to share her story to help other women have the courage to stand up and tell their story. And it has taken off. It has created a lane of its own and is moving at, warp speed. So it has been a beautiful process. I am again honored to be a daughter of South Sudan. I feel like I'm at home, and that's why I keep coming back. I love it here. I love the people
Thanks,
here.
Nyamuch.
Yes. That name is it just means a lot to me, and I appreciate
Yeah.
the people who came together and saw that it was fit for me. And so I don't take it lightly. I don't take it for granted, and I'm so happy to be here and on this journey with my sister, my friend, whom I love dearly. And it's been a beautiful journey.
Thank you. I'm just feeling excited. And yeah, we also understand in South Sudan, like any other country, a lot's going. And maybe the victims of certain situations may not share it, like you say. Maybe they so much cling on their reputations of their family. What will my mom say? What will my dad say? This is secret. But then there are certain secrets that also affect the individual, because sometimes we just want to wear certain phrases to look okay, but when we are not really okay. As I speak now, a lot of young girls in South Sudan are going through the same situation. Is there any word of encouragement that you can give them?
This is why we're here now. This is what we decided to do after the book launch was over, is to take this work on ourselves and advocate for these young women and young men as well that are being forced into certain situations like arranged marriages. So I do have word for the parents. I have word for the children, like the girls themselves or the boys. So my word to the girls themselves is, do not give up on your dream. Do not give up on your dream. If the school education is what you want, then fight for it. You know, and I do understand the culture that sometimes it could even be dangerous. But
Yeah,
there will be somebody that will believe you, that will support you. Maybe it's an uncle, maybe it's a distant cousin. Like in my case,
maybe a friend.
maybe a friend. You will find somebody. Just because the culture say that you are at this age and you should be married, it doesn't mean that that's your fate. That's the journey. Maybe you want something different. For me, it was, I wanted school and I wanted my education. And at this day, right now, in this age, in this current society that we're in, education is the most important thing that we can do. And we want everybody to have an opportunity. So find somebody that you can tell your dream to, somebody that will fight for you and help you through that forced marriage that you might be finding yourself in. So that's for the girls, right? For the brothers and for the fathers, that usually typically the ones that put these young girls in this situation, is that there's a quote that says, "Don't eat your today food or your tomorrow food today."
Today, yeah.
Yes, don't eat your tomorrow food today. It's hard for us to understand this concept, but dowry, it really is a one transaction, one time. And education, your job and your knowledge is come to pay over and over and over
Again.
and over again. And I'm a testimony. I can testify to that. I tell you, the money that would pay for my wedding at that time, at 14, it was $8,000. $8,000. If I tell you that right now, I can make that in 1 week. In 1 week, nobody would believe me. I
Wow.
can make that in
Yeah,
a week.
sure.
And that was the money that almost caused me to lose my life at 16. I almost committed suicide because I didn't want to be in that. And they thought that $8,000 was enough. Or to say she's old enough, and the culture say it's time for you to get married, it's time for you to get married before you get spoiled by somebody else. I had my daughter at 16 and I still continued with education. So yes, to the parent, keep your children in school. Even if you think they are the lifeline to your survival right now, you'll find a different way to survive, because if you put them in school, they will not only contribute to their own homes, but to you, to your families, and to the society, to their future generations, for over and over and over again. And it might just change your whole family tree, that one person. Yeah. So that's to the parent, and to the brothers. I had my older brother was also part of this group that also wanted me to be in this marriage. Just stop it. Stop it. Support your sister. Support your niece. You know, fight with your uncles, your father. Let them know that it's important to send your sisters to school. And to mothers, I have seen mothers that has been put to jail because they didn't want their daughters to be married, and they are in prison. Keep fighting for your daughter. We will eventually, this country will have laws eventually to protect your kid and to protect you. No mother should be put to jail because her daughter either eloped, got impregnated, or refusing to be married off. Why the mother is getting put in jail? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So this is a collective effort that we all have to do together. But dreams do come true, and whatever your dream is, don't lose hope. Keep going.
You want to add something? Yes.
Sure. There is with every choice, and this is a choice that we're coming over here to do this work. For those people who have stood up for Nyajuok to tell her story, it was a choice, and it comes with a hefty weight of consequences. Some consequences may be bad, some may be good. You'll never know until you make that choice. But there's a saying that I think is really important for people to hear. And it is, until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, then everything will remain the same. And I'm going to say it again, until the pain of staying the same, going through the same stuff that you've been going through, until that gets so great that the pain of changing it doesn't seem so bad after a while, nothing will change. Change is uncomfortable. Change can hurt. But we have to look past today to see how it benefits our future generations, see how it benefits our children. And is it worth it for me to stand up today to make a better life for the rest of our country, the rest of the world, whatever your footprint is on this earth? And it takes courage to do that. But every person who has ever created any type of change in this world, on this earth, has had to stand up and face some of those, fears, had to stand up in the face of adversity and say, the buck stops here. Like, I'm not going to accept this for myself or for anybody else anymore. And we are where we are globally. We have come so far because a few people in this world dared to say, enough is enough. So I would say this, and I've had to do it. And I know you talked about, the different culture in the U.S. and versus here in South Sudan. A lot of people think I don't understand, and I do. I do in a lot of ways. We all have a human experience. We're all going through life every single day. My parents, even though they're Black Americans, born and raised in America, we are a descendant of Africans. And a lot of those traditions were passed down. So a lot of the things and the challenges that I hear, we go through as well. We go through, our parents want us to do certain things, force us into doing certain things that we don't want for our lives. They want to live vicariously through us, want to force us to go into certain professions or whatever that we don't want to because they think that that's the most successful path for you. But ultimately, you're the person who has to live your life. And nobody understands the pain that you go through while you're trying to please everybody else. We've learned to take care of and please everybody else, and we've never been taught to take care of ourselves. And so when we talk about traumas and things like that, it doesn't just happen here. It happens in the U.S. I had some very strict parents, very religious parents who didn't want me to do certain things or whatever, who wanted me to do other things. And I was a little bit rebellious. And some things I learned the hard way. But then there was a breakthrough with, even my parents, that I'm able to teach them. And before my father passed away, able to teach him some things about life, to share the wisdom that I gained by doing different things, surrounding myself with different people, and going through life the way that I was given, along the vision that I was given for my life. And it's turned out beautifully. And like Nyajuok said, as an educated woman, no matter where you are, you're able to give back in a way that you may not be able to do otherwise. And I'm not saying for those who don't have education, you don't have value. And that's what I want to stress. Every person has value. If you don't have education, it doesn't mean that you're not educated just because you're not within the brick and mortar system. Because life gives you experiences, it teaches you lessons. You can be around people who can share their knowledge and their intellect, and you can be just as impactful as people who have gone to school, who have degrees. So, like she said, don't give up on your dream just because you don't have a degree or a piece of paper. You can learn from people around you every single day. People may not have a school, but they may have a cell phone or know somebody who does. And the internet is huge with information. YouTube is one of the best teachers out there. So don't give up on those dreams. Dare to be bold and courageous and live the life that you were created to live. It may cost you some things, but don't look at the things that you may lose. Focus on the things that you may gain as a result of your courage and standing up and making a change in this world and this culture and in your family. Even if it's just in your family to get them to a better way, you've done your job. So it may be hard, but I just encourage you guys to be bold, be courageous, and things will change. They are changing already. So
Thanks, Nyamoch. You're really a gift. I am also learning. I am picking. I am taking note, and I'm going to make another note after this. Because sometimes at so many points, like when we try to stand our ground as young people, especially in South Sudan, the words that are going around, oh, you're not supposed to do that. It's a foreign culture. But I'm so happy now hearing from you. There are things that are really so similar, and depends upon individual, like to decide on what you want to do with your life. And then that also doesn't mean we are devaluing our parents, because sometimes our consents are not being considered. Like, you're young, you're not supposed to do that, but then you're young and you're given the life is yours. It's never your mother's life. Yeah, so I am also learning, and I hope people outside there are learning, students and others. Yeah. And I think this is so much into our situations now. I am just proud to mention, Nyajuok, a lot of young girls, young women who just came across your page, who might have heard about your stories. Personally, I always share that story among my friends. I have a lot of friends who are victims to these situations. And sometimes they come over, my friend is going through this, or I am going through this. So I just feel so strong to share your own personal stories. Having read the book, sometimes I just send them to find this book if they can find it. So a lot outside are so anxious, like they want you to be their guiding star. I am just proud to mention that to you, because currently we see your life is never the same again. And they're asking, what did you really do to yourself? What did you really do to yourself? Because it's like it's happened and it's still happening.
Yeah.
What really did you do to yourself? So that those who also, wish to have you as their guiding star can follow the same footsteps.
I think the question is, what did I not do?
true story.
Yes. And I would say this, Jackie. I love this guy. He's a writer, and he wrote a book. It's called The Strangest Secret. And The Strangest Secret, there's a word there. It says, the reason 90% of the population is not successful is the word conformity. I would tell you the one thing that I did not do is conforming to the traditions and norms. Okay? So I don't have a magic formula of how did I become successful or outspoken. I was born outspoken. Okay? So that was just a gift that God gave me. I'm very outspoken. Even growing up in my family, when my parent has a fight, I'm the second oldest, and it's usually me and my brother that sit them together and discuss why they're fighting and how they should fix it. Okay,
reconciling.
Yes, we are their judges and their counselors. But I tell you because I always have my own mind. I respect my parents very much. I really do, but I always tell them or share with them how I really feel about what they're doing to me or how they see my life supposed to go. I always share with them, no, this is what I want for my life. So from that time at 14 years old, when I was pushed into the arranged marriage, I did win. I got married, have a child, but I said from the book, I told my parents the reason I didn't want to get married at that time is because I wanted education. And because I said it out loud to my parents, it became my guiding. Like, okay, if I told my parent that I want education, I must get an education, because I don't want them to think that I was lying or. So I went to college right out of high school. I went to college. I got my education. But on my graduation day, I was 23 years old. I graduated with my bachelor, and I got up in front of the church people, okay? And I told my parent, and I said, I have I have done this and this and this. I even went to college to try to prove you guys that I was
And you
worthy.
did.
Yes, try to prove myself to you. Try to make a point and to buy your love. And I said in front of church, I said, from now on, I am no longer living my life to prove anybody. I would live my life through what I want and how I want it. And I think at that moment, I declare my adulthood. I declare my adulthood, and I feel like that's when my life really started. Because I did things that I joined the United States Army because that's what I wanted to do. I got married at 30, and at that point, my parents were praying for me, like seriously praying, because I had divorced this guy at 19. I left. He actually left. But at the age of 30, I was still single. And at this point, they were on their knees, to this moment. But I was focusing on my career, And when I got married, I also told them how I wanted to be done. So in a way, I didn't conform to what the society expect of me, what our culture expect of me, or what my parents expect of me. I live my life the way I see it and how I want it. And right now, I tell you, I have a lot of people that don't like me. There's a lot of people, even back in America, that don't like me because the way I live my life, you know. I choose what I want to do and what I don't want to do, who I want to associate with and who I don't want to associate based on how I want my life to turn out, how I see it. So for the young women that want me to mentor them, this is my thing, is do not conform to the norms and traditions. They don't get you anywhere. You'll be just like everybody else that you see. Unless you're okay with that. If you're okay to be like the 90%,
Carry on.
then you're fine. Wake up and do the same thing they're doing. But if you want something different, you got to do something different. And it cannot be the same thing that you've been doing. You have to do something different. So this is my motto. So
No more something you want to add?
No, I mean, I think she covered it all, but it really is about, we have a lot of internal conflict when we're not living to the standard or doing the things that are really pressing on our heart to do. And so a lot of us end up having these breakdowns and, falling outs and all this stuff because we're constantly battling what's right for me. I don't want to live the life that my parents, want for me. This is what I aspire to do. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm gifted at doing. But we allow other people to really suppress our gifts, talents, dreams. And I believe that you were not giving them for nothing. If you guys know, there's a famous speaker. His name is Les Brown. And he always says the richest place on earth is the cemetery. Therein lies all of the gifts, the talents, the knowledge, the intellect, the inventions, the breakthroughs in science, technology, medicine, you name it, that people were afraid to showcase to the world. What good is a gift, somebody giving you a gift that you never open, And I see that a lot here. There are some beautifully talented young people here and adults who have suppressed those talents and dreams and conformed to what society has told them. But, at the end of the day, you have to live with you. You're the only person who has to live your life. And not all of us were made to conform. Not all of us were made to conform.
Yeah.
There is that 10%. A lot of people are jealous and want to tear down the people that are doing things. that are breaking out of their
Right.
boxes, they tear them down because secretly they wish it was them. You know? I wish I had the courage to stand up. I wish I had the courage to tell my parents no. I wish I had the courage to say I don't want this marriage. And there's so many of us that have that. And it took me a very long time. I was very shy. I was a people pleaser. I was a conformist until I realized that conformity was going to put me in the grave. And I wasn't ready to go. I was not ready to go. And I'll tell you, living the life that I want to live, that I feel that God has given me to live, it has been the best therapy ever. I'm 45, y'all. And it's at this point in my life that I am the happiest I have ever been in my entire life. Because I'm not worried
happy
about
for you.
Thank you. I don't worry about what other people. I don't worry about what other people think I should be doing because they don't have to go through the emotions that I go through when I have these internal battles about what people want versus what I want. They often try to talk me out of doing things that they've never had the courage to do. Mm-hmm. Why would I listen to someone who's never even done it? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, sure.
So with that being said, I think that's why, her and I are a lot alike. We're a lot alike in so many ways, as it pertains to that. We study the same stuff. We're very much into personal growth. And it has helped us and helped me tremendously live the life that makes me genuinely, to my bone marrow, to the nucleus of my DNA, happy.
Oh my God. That's so strong. We have about 14 minutes to go.
I do want to add something very small.
Okay, you're welcome.
And it's mentorship. Okay? So when you realize what you want to do, there's a lot of negative competition, right? But be the positive competition. Seek out to the person that you really admire and person that's living the dream that you want to live, instead of envying them, instead of being jealous and try to assassinate their character. Reach out to them and say, how did you get there? I want to know, what steps did you take that you can share with me? I admire your life and I want something similar. So reach out to people that you really admire and ask them how you can also get to their position. This is really, really important for personal growth. And nobody gets anywhere without support from other people. We're always supporting each other. They will be happy to help you. They don't like it when they hear negative things you're saying about them. But if you come straight to them and says, I want your help, they will help you. So that's what I want to say. Mentorship is really important.
Mentorship.
Yeah.
I think it's a takeaway. People don't get this wrong. It's once in a lifetime. If you miss this, you're not getting it anywhere until you go and watch. Yeah, I'm just so happy and I am learning. I'm continuing to learn. But then you mentioned something about custom. I mean about norms. Our society is how the society construct things. And people out there getting us and you're listening to our conversation, you shouldn't really mistake. Like, it's not every norm that's not okay. Because, our society is sort of, oh, you're adopting Eurocentric ideas. But then if we are to ask how many Eurocentric things have we adopted? So it's just picking, because also in the US, there are things that are nasty. But then as individual, as a person, what do you want to get out of that society? Because there are things that society create and they are not okay. And these are the things we are talking about them. Right. Arranged marriages, for example. These are things that are nasty. Once transaction in a lifetime, that's dowry. What else do you want your daughter to live for? What if it's not working? So I think it's a takeaway for us. And please, our listeners, don't get us wrong. So you also mentioned in part of this book, because I read this book back to back, like you mentioned something, how bad your relationship went with your brother, even other family members. And if I'm not mistaken, now you're okay with everyone else in the house.
Yes.
But I just wanted to know, and also our people out there want to know, how did you manage this?
Yes. This question I was asked in Rumbek. I think we were in Rumbek speaking to a school student, and they asked me in another event, is, especially when somebody start reading the book, they see the fighting, the family drama, and all these things, and then they get to the end and they realize, oh, it's all love, like there's really a lot of forgiveness, that took effect, and people want to know, how did you forgive, because I do. My brother right now is my number one supporter. I love my brother.
Wow.
As if it's the reason I joined the army. So him and I are very, very close. He follows me everywhere I go now in South Sudan. And, there are sometimes life happens to where you see that people do love you, and you realize the things that they have put you through, maybe it wasn't their intention, or they were following some person's ideas, or the way they were brought up as well. For instance, my dad is a product of a culture. My dad loves me. They all love me. It's a product of a culture. He was doing what he knows to do. So him and we went back and forth, tried to forgive each other. Okay.
Wow.
So I am going to be honest. I think we talked at least 3 times in the last 30 years, out of my forgiveness for my mom just came naturally, through, especially when I became a mother and saw how wonderful and warm she was to me and my daughter, and just helping me become a mother. So right now I'm here in South Sudan. She's taking care of my boys.
Oh my God.
Yes, she's taking care of my boys. So the forgiveness and the love just transpired. You didn't need to do anything. My brother quit. He would beat a man over. He would just come for them. So he loves me. My dad, I had a really hard time forgiving my dad. But through personal growth, mentorship, through my faith and my belief in the forgiveness, and what forgiveness really does to the person that holding on to the grudge. I had to learn to let go of that because it was hurting me. It was me that was struggling. Like when I was writing the book, right? I called him and I said, Dad, I'm going to share my story in a book. And he said, Nyajuok, that's been over 20 years. You should let it go. And to him, maybe all these things, he doesn't even remember them, right? Like, to me, it's been 20 years, but to me,
You still hurt them.
Yes,
Yeah.
it still hurt me. I still remember what it was like when this was said to me and that was said to me. But to him, it doesn't bother him, right? And he just remember it was a time in our life where we had to go through that. So I remember that I was the one that needed to let go of certain things so that I can live my life and prosper and be a happy person. So it was a lot of work on my part to forgive my father. Yeah. Now he supports me, he follows me, he texts me and says, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. But they love me. They didn't do any of that because they didn't love me, and I always wonder, but they do. And I know that.
All right. We have 8 minutes to go. I don't know if there is anything both of you can have in 2 minutes, like giving an information or any sort of advice to the people of South Sudan, especially young women, and also our parents, because sometimes we shy away from a lot of things, even those affecting us as young people, as young women, as girls in homes. So what advice can you give us at this moment so that we move to part of your work?
I really wanted to talk to the culture, our norm and practices that are so harmful to the society are going to change. Whether it's going to take 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, they are going to change. The world, it moves on. These young people in South Sudan do not want these practices. And this is what I have discovered in the last year that we've been traveling. They tired of the high dowry price. They don't want to be forced into taking their dad or uncle wife when they pass out, the ghost marriage. They don't want to do that. They don't want to be brought a bride. The young women don't want to be chosen a husband. So these traditions are going to change whether we like it or not. And the sooner we realize that they are, the easier it would be for everybody, for parents that are out there. Support the culture transition. Every culture revolves. Every society has a new way of living their life. And this is the young people. And what young people right now, they want to have choices. They want to have opinion. They want their education. And we need to support them through that. Yeah?
Yeah.
And the laws are there, but we need to reinforce them. We need to put them in practice. We need to hold each other accountable. If we see something, we say something. The gender-based violence, we see it, we stop it. We need to stop being a bystanders. We need to be active participant in this transformation that we are going through. So I'm very proud of the the young, especially the young women that are advocating. To be an advocate for gender equality in South Sudan is not easy. Especially, it's easy for me because I'm from the West and I can come and speak my mind. But for the people from here, girls like you, I cannot imagine if I would have been in the same situation if I was here in South Sudan. And seriously, it's such a hard thing to do, breaking the culture, the norms, and speaking out against these harmful culture and practices. So I am very proud of them. Every time I see young women standing up in front of a hall full of men and addressing them and say, no, this is wrong and this is what I want. I just want to say, continue to do that. Things are going to improve, and they are improving. We were in Lake State. We went to Laredo. It's an all-girls school, and I was in line, and they told me that girl, her name is Nyajuok. And I went to her. I said, "You're a Nora girl." She said, "Yes." I said, "Your parents send you." She said, "I'm from Upper Nile." I said, "They send you all the way from Upper Nile, and you in Barakazal in Lake State in a boarding school that is all girls." She said, "Yes." I said, "The world is changing.
It's happening."
I said, "This is
it's
beautiful.
happening."
Imagine, imagine. So let's give ourselves some time. Let's take it slow, and let's understand that it's coming sooner or later.
Here we have 5 minutes to go.
Okay. Well, I'll be quick, I hope. But like she says, it's changing, and like my mentor says, things are going to change by design or default. All right, whether you want them to happen or not, they're going to change in some way, shape, or form. So you should be on the design part. So therefore, you have a voice, you have a say so in the change that happens. That you express that, so your voice is heard and taken into consideration for the things that you want and no longer want. So change is going to happen. If you're not changing, you're dying. All right, and we don't want the culture to die off. So I just want to say that we're not here to change all the culture, like Jackie said. It's just the harmful things in every culture. There are things that people say from the West about South Sudan that are just, ridiculous.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be here if I listen to what everybody else said,
Yeah.
but here I am, right? And there's so much beauty in it. The same thing, every culture has its good and bad. Every culture, the citizens are fighting for the good to outweigh the bad. And that's what we're here to do. And it's to protect our young girls. It's protect our mothers, our sisters, our aunts, our cousins, our daughters from the harmful things. No person should be subjected to any sort of violence. And so I would just say, get on the upside of change. Get on the upside of change. It's coming, but we want to do it right. And we know it takes time. And the other thing I'm going to say is think about your thinking. There's another quote that says, what is it? 2% of people really think, 3% think they think, and then 95% would rather do anything but think. And that's if you look at that quote and those percentages, it's kind of the way of the world. 95% of people just conform. There are a couple of people, 3% that may buck the system a little bit, but really the top 2% of the population in the world run the world. Because they dare to think. They challenge their old beliefs, the things that they were like, is it really right for us to do that? Like when girls say, well, my sisters, that's my marriage money. Well, what's wrong with you getting up and working and getting your own dowry? Why are you subjecting her to a life of something that she may not want? Just for your benefit. And it's one time. Do you have the ability to sustain a family long term after that dowry is gone? It's not her fault. It's you have to take responsibility for your life. So some of these things that are harming our culture and our people and things like that, we really need to dissect it and say, is it still beneficial for us now? Does it still fit the same, kind of system situation now? It may have been necessary 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. But today, is there a better way to do things?
Yeah.
And like she said, our parents, and as a parent myself, I have a 26-year-old and I have an 18-year-old. And I didn't always get it right. A lot of the things, especially with my oldest daughter, I did because that's what I was taught. I didn't question my parents, so to speak. I knew that I didn't like a lot of the things, but I thought that's just what parenting was. Until I had the opportunity to really think about how I was parenting my children and what I wanted them to go through in life. And so I had to unlearn the things that I was given and taught, and I had to relearn what was best for me and my children. And I think that as a society, we need to do that. There are some things that just don't make sense anymore, and we need to unlearn and relearn better ways for those things that are harmful. Not for everything, but the things that are harmful.
Yeah, sure. So thanks so much, Kamel, Nyajuok, and your sister. But then, like, in 2 minutes or one, if you can tell us a bit of what you're doing. I remember attending the training you had on financial literacy. I know a lot of activities that you're doing now, and they're helpful. So can you please share with us some of your activities and what's the way forward to us at South Sudanese as young girls and boys, as young women? Yeah.
So, as you know, Jackie, we're here under I Am Nyajuok Foundation.
Okay.
It's an organization that Camille and I established during our book tour because we knew the book became life of itself. It was no longer about my story. It was about the people of South Sudan. So we formed I Am Nyajuok Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization advocating for the young people, and for we're advocating to have a peaceful country, right? Peace is always there, and peaceful families and in relationships. So gender-based violence, we have been partnered up with the UNFPA. Right now we're here under a program called Project Level Up Ladies. And that project, we have 8 different programs. Right now we have completed 3 programs, and this Friday, tomorrow, our 4th program is under mental health. So mental health will be tomorrow from 10 to 2, and we will have it at a Star Hotel in Juba Town. Every week on Fridays, unless it's pre-announced, we will have a activity. So we have the following week we will have an activity on dissecting different norms, culture norms that are harmful, and we are going to have some adults and young people come together and kind of challenge each other, thinking about why we should continue with these practices, and why not we should not continue with this. And then after that, we'll talk about self-serious, empower. So what Camille and I envision is that as the person is holistic, right? So if we're going to empower our young people, then we need to think of the person holistically, the mind, the body, the spiritual, and money management is a big part, like we did last week. So we want to give them tools and skills that they can go, and instead of focusing on their daughter dowry, they will be able to make their own money and marry their own wife, right? So every week we have activities until March 31st. So these activities will keep going. They will go on, and anybody that follows us on social media will see announcements when and where these activities take place, and they are free for everybody. They come. Some activities are limited to a certain amount of people. Like Saturday, we will have GBVs and arts as a form of healing. That one might be limited to 50 people. We don't know, but there's a registration. So if people can go online and register. If it's open, that means it's still open. If we close it, we will close it. That will take place on Saturday. But that's what we're doing here right now in South Sudan. It's empowering our young people, our elderly as well. It's for everybody to have a peaceful environment, to look out for one another, and collectively to combat these norms that are not excelling our society and empowering our individuals. So we're here under that project, Level Up Ladies, and we'll be here until March 31st.
Oh, thanks. We are almost getting into some people's time. Okay. Thanks so much. I am just so happy about honoring our invitations and also, sacrificing. We started a little late because of the movement. We understand. We apologize for that. And safe drive home and have a very good evening today until we meet again. You're missing out ever. This is Gender Talk 211 with you, Jackie Ben. See you.